Well, hello there. Welcome to Fight Evil. It's me, Chuck, here, and I've got Jiggy with me too.
Hello, all.
Yep. And today we are talking about the 2008 movie Untraceable, featuring Diane Lane. And it's about this guy who kills people through his website, killwithme.com. And, he starts off slow, starts with a cat, and then moves up to humans. And this woman who works for this FBI cybercrime division, or I don't know whatever you want to call it, she stumbles upon the site and leads the charge in trying to figure out who this person is and trying to take them down. Now, I actually watched this movie 2 weeks ago, but we had to postpone the show for a couple of weeks. I think Jiggy here had menstrual cramps or something. Is that it?
Well, I was never tested, but at least the second time around, the second delay, I'm like 90% sure I had COVID. And in fact, I'm still not entirely, if my voice sounds stuffy at any point, I'm not entirely over it right now, but at least I'm not coughing, so... I'm alive.
It sounds like more or less the same thing. But we are here today. Did you watch this earlier today, just before the show?
Yeah, I watched it I finished it probably about 4 or 5 hours ago. So I watched it shortly after getting back from work.
Yeah. And where did you actually watch it from?
There's an instructive story in there. And by instructive, I mean I just paid like $3.50 to watch on Amazon Prime, so...
Okay. Well, I dug out my old Blu-ray. Blu-ray is the way to watch movies, in my opinion. Well, if you've got 4K or whatever, that's fine too. But, I watched my old UK Blu-ray, which... I don't know if there's a better version of this movie out there, but as far as I know, that's about as good as it gets at this point. Anywho, it has been a while since I've watched this movie. I think I watched it once when it first came out, which was, 2008, 2009, somewhere around there. And I remember enjoying this movie to a point. Like, it was enjoyable, but nothing mind-blowing, nothing fantastic. And coming back to it again all these years later, I can say it's pretty much the same opinion that I had, those 15 years ago. I thought it was a solid movie, but still, kind of a forgettable movie. And just before we started this show, you were saying something or questioning that it's not really a horror movie. Is that right?
Well, I'll just say this. I think the topic of what is and isn't horror, I mean, everyone has their own views on it. Like, if someone watches a movie and thinks, oh, hey, it's horror, as far as I'm concerned, it's good enough for me. Myself watching this one, I don't see it as a horror film. It doesn't have that feel to me, aside from maybe a scene or two toward the end. Because, I mean, like Chuck said, it primarily follows an investigation into a serial killer by a cybercrime unit. So it feels more like a thriller crime type thing than it does a horror to me. There's a few gruesome scenes, but my whole point being is that I think horror is largely subjective. I mean, any genre is largely subjective. So... well, I don't see it as a horror movie. I'm sure some people out there probably do. But, yeah, don't let my definition of what's in the genre take anything away from you guys. So,
yeah. Well, to me, this movie is very Saw-ish. Like, it's a lot like Saw, but I guess more of a thriller version of Saw. Like, it doesn't quite have the elaborate... to a point, it does have elaborate kills, but, it's not like you got 60 seconds to pull something out of your ass and, open a lock and then say 3 words. You got to do all these types of things to get some sort of trap off of you. This is a bit different, but there are some gruesome kills in this movie. I think like what was it, like an acid bath?
Yeah, that was the, I think in my opinion, the most quality sequence in the movie.
Yeah. So to me, it was very similar to the Saw movies, just not as hardcore on, the kills, I guess. But yeah, it's a lot like those movies. So in this movie, well, let's talk about the people who are in the movie, or the characters or the actors. So we've got the main actress, Diane Lane, and I thought she did fairly well in the movie. I kind of remember her from back in the day. She was quite the looker back then. But obviously she's a lot older here. And we've also got Tom Hanks' semen in the movie. I don't know if I've seen him in anything else. I probably have, but he just doesn't really stand out to me. But he did okay.
He may not stand out to you. He was actually my favorite character in the movie. So that's not the case of different folks. But he had a very he had an interesting personality, one that I sort of enjoyed. And not to go into any spoilers, but toward the end of his role in the movie, he helps lead to the capture of the killer, at least to the identity of the killer. So, and he was in really bad circumstances at the time. So, I sort of like, I don't think I've seen Colin Hanks either myself, but I liked his personality. At least he had personality. Like the detective guy in the movie, what the fuck's this guy's name? Billy Burke is the name of the actor. Now, I have nothing against, I don't know the guy, I don't know this actor. But he didn't seem to have much of a personality at all. So at least Colin Hanks brought something to the movie. And that actually might be one of my main complaints, but we'll talk about that after we go through some of these other names.
Yeah. I feel like I have seen that other guy, Billy Burke or whatever his name was. I feel like I've seen him in something else, and he played like, I don't know if he played the exact same type of character, but however he acts, it just feels the same in other roles that he's played. I should have looked him up on IMDb, but anyways, overall, I guess in terms of the people in the movie, it was fine. The guy that plays the killer in this movie, or the bad guy, I don't think it's a spoiler to say, because once he kind of pops up, it's pretty much immediately known that he is the killer of the movie once they show his face and he has this interaction with another person. But that dude, his face, I don't know if it was just a particular scene or not, but his face is like thinner than his neck. That right there is like, as soon as you see someone with a feature like that, you know not to trust them. So it's kind of like the reverse Corey Taylor thing, where he's got a massive neck, but in this case, the dude's face is thinner than his neck. I don't know. He seemed to have a really odd look about him. What do you think?
Well, this is what I think. I haven't heard the name Corey Taylor in like 15 years, so there's a name from the past. But I definitely think the guy had a distinctive look. He reminded me actually of another actor who I'm not going to be able to name. The name's not coming off the tip of my tongue. But I've seen actors that look somewhat similar to him before. I just looked through this guy's credits and I guess he was in Lincoln, but I don't think I'd remember him from that movie. But yeah, no, suddenly a distinctive look. And I thought his performance was decent. Naturally, he had a reason for what he was doing, as illogical as a reason might seem to other people. And can't say I blame him that much for some of the things that he did.
Yeah.
Though I would not recommend live streaming killing a cat online, because that's going to get you cancelled so quick.
What did you think about the motives of the killer, which comes out towards the end of the movie. I thought, to me, I thought it actually made sense. Like for a lot of these movies, they just kind of do things because they're bad people. And in this case, I'm not necessarily saying I sympathize with the killer, but his reasoning for how he did things in the movie seemed to make sense.
Yeah, so I'll say this, and I don't want to get too long-winded, but the whole theme of this movie, see, it's so funny that you compare this to Saw, because the whole theme and message of this movie seemed to be like, we shouldn't want to see this violent and gory stuff. Like, check this out, this guy has a website, which I think was called Watch Me Kill or something like that. So it was pretty much set up that a victim would be in sort of a trap. And the more that people signed into this website and watched the video, the more that likely the trap was to kill them. Like, this one guy was trapped down in a bunch of sunlights, and the more people that logged in, the more sunlights turned on, and his skin, of course, is boiling and such. So the whole theme of the movie is, hey, people should probably not want to be aroused by this sensationalist violence. Which, on a side note, it's really funny. I'm not sure if you noticed this or not, but there's a line by that guy saying, "Oh, like in 10 years from now, they'll be showing like this type of stuff on TV." And it's this thing about live, which we talked about a couple months ago. So I just found that sort of an amusing connection. But the whole point is sort of challenging the sensationalistic nature of violence in today's culture. But it still shows there's some of these quite gruesome scenes. Like I said, the guy's trapped down in front of a bunch of sun lamps. The acid scene, which is, I think, like I said, probably a standout sequence in the movie. But that's the type of stuff I enjoy. So I found it sort of amusing in I don't know, sort of counterproductive way with the message they were going for. Now, to tie it in with the killer himself, I certainly understand where he was coming from. It all relates back to a tragedy in his life that was exploited by the media, and everyone's treated it as just like a normal day. Like, you turn on... Now, I don't watch mainstream news, but if you did happen to watch news, you see like live action car chases and stuff like that. It's not uncommon to see, and I think really have a question of, is that really what we should be doing? Like, just showing this live stuff just for entertainment? Because newscasters don't give a fuck if those people get out alive. They just want the views. So yeah, I certainly get where this guy's coming from. His approach probably could have been refined a bit, because I'm not sure if that message, if he was trying to get out to people, if that was clear to people. He probably should have actually written some manifestos. But and it's funny because he was actually compared, I think, at one point to the Unabomber, which, if you don't know, it's a guy, well, believe it or not, he bombs in buildings, but who did have a manifesto.
Okay, that makes sense.
Oh, yeah. But I believe that's back in the 90s. But point being, I sort of liked how they tied in these victims to the killer, because these victims that we see pop up, they seem somewhat random. Like, one's like a late 60s, mid 60s year old guy. Now the guy's like a clean cut. Actually, guy was played by Christopher Cousins, who isn't a name that's particularly big in my opinion, but he was in Breaking Bad. If anyone's happened to watch Breaking Bad, he played a Todd, who is the man that Skyler cheated on Walt with. So fun little piece of trivia for you. But point being, I like how they tied in these victims to the killer's plans. So I appreciate that. I think that killer's plans made sense, even if they may not have been the best approach. And I guess I liked a lot of what the story was trying to do. I just don't know if it really tied everything together like as well as it could have. And I think one way to signify that is that this movie came out back in 2008, and I don't know about you, but I pretty much never see anyone talking about this. Like,
Yeah.
it's not an unknown movie. Like, something like 50,000 people have rated it on IMDb, and I'm not sure what Letterboxd has, but I just don't hear people talking about it.
Yeah.
So I think it certainly has maybe it's just a bit more forgettable than the average movie. Maybe it just has so much, like you said, compared to your son. Maybe it's just other movies that came out around the same time that sort of stole its thunder. But I just don't hear much about it, and it's not a bad movie, but I'm just not sure if there's enough here to make it a quote unquote gold movie. To be honest.
Yeah. Well, I guess that loops back to what I was saying at the beginning, where I was saying it's enjoyable, but it's forgettable. And considering no one really talks about it to this day, yeah, I guess that's true. It is forgettable. It's like someone saw the success of Saw, and like now I don't know which production companies were behind this, but you know, it's got a few decent names in the movie, and it seems to have a decent production behind it. So it seems like a bigger studio kind of saw the success of Saw and said, can we kind of bring this to a more mainstream audience and not just hardcore horror fans? Or I guess you could say Saw has been brought to mainstream horror fans, but this is more just mainstream, well, you know, moviegoers in general.
Yeah, like, so hey, if you like Tom Hanks, come see Tom Hanks' son.
Yeah. So I think, you know, the audience size for this, they just tried to open it up beyond what the audience size was for something like Saw. And, yeah. There was something that they could have done. Well, they had an opportunity in this movie to do something that was very, I guess you could say, is like a cheap tactic to scare the audience, which is, I think it's about halfway through the movie, the killer is spying on the house of the FBI agent, the main lead, and we see him watching the daughter. Now, they could have just done the really cheap thing and he just abducts the daughter, and then the movie becomes about her having to get her daughter back. And because I hadn't seen this movie in about 15 years, I could not recall if that was going to happen or not. So I was kind of glad to see that they didn't go that route, and but they had the opportunity.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because I was much in the same way. It's been so long since I've seen this, and I was wondering if they would take a sort of cliche approach. And I was sort of worried they were going to. Like, when the woman comes down and she doesn't see her daughter for a few moments, then we find out she's hiding. But it's like, oh God, are they actually going that direction? And luckily they didn't, because that would have been, it would have been great. Though there's a scene actually toward the end that I did what you point out. This is one of my big gripes with the movie. So at this point in the movie, the killer's identity is known. The police know, the media knows, his face is out there. So it's just like a matter of time before they theoretically catch them. As this, I forget the actress's name off the top of my head. Let's see. Diane Lane. Because on the side note, she's not an actress I know whatsoever. So, as Lane's character is driving across a bridge, her vehicle, it's like an EPM sort of hit. So, vehicle goes down, all the technology goes down, vehicle stops moving, she gets out, she goes to a sort of phone booth type thing, makes a phone call, lets people know what's going on. Then she gets back in her vehicle. She did it properly, looked to make sure no one else was there. Keep in mind, she's like literally in the FBI, she's in cybersecurity. She sort of some wherewithal about safety. It's not like she didn't suspect the killer might be around. So, but no, she just gets back in her vehicle and oh, look, she gets tased. Like, that choice right there instantly hated the character from that point onward. So, like, now that doesn't really take away much from the movie, but, like, just talking specific characters, I don't know why anyone would do what she did. Like, I guess it was raining, so maybe she wanted to get out of the rain, but you already stand in the rain for like 5 minutes making a fucking phone call, so I think you can deal with it. So, yeah, it just struck me as sort of contrived, which, again, doesn't take anything necessarily away from the movie, but that scene did sort of annoy me. So, it's the end of Jiggy Rant number 2.
And in this movie, they do have a lot of technical lingo going on. And I also wonder just how much of that is accurate. I mean, we all know, or, you know, back in the day, I haven't really heard anyone say these words for a while, but obviously back in the day, they were words that would pop up in terms of viruses and things like that. They would talk about Trojans.
Annie thought she downloaded a game from one of her friends. It had a backdoor Trojan. It got him all the way into my wireless network.
I thought backdoor Trojans were like condoms for gay men.
It's see, I guess since I've not been in a position to shop for condoms for gay men, I wouldn't know. But I guess it's just not my area.
I mean, I'm just putting 2 and 2 together here. I mean, we all know Trojans, that's a brand of condoms, and we all know what backdoor means in terms of sex. So,
yeah, we see, if you're going to have sex with someone, but you don't want the neighbors to know, you don't go through the front door, you go through the back door. So, I know it's a way to hide the extramarital affairs.
Speaking from experience.
Yes, because I'm well known for having affairs with married women. It's one thing I do in my life.
Right on.
For those of you who don't know me, I'm not well known for that. But maybe I will be from this point on.
Well, I look forward to it. Yeah, so I don't know. One other thing was I got, and this isn't really anything to do with the movie itself, but because I watched this on Blu-ray, sometimes when you watch movies on discs, they have like the FBI warning, and then, you know, going into a movie where it's about FBI, I don't know, something about that was just I don't know, it just carried over well for me, I guess. Anywho, so I think that's pretty much all I had to say about the movie. I found it enjoyable, but like I said, it's one of those movies that you watch once, and in this situation, you know, you come back to it 15 years later, and you feel the exact same way about it. Is that more or less how it was for you?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have a bad time with it. I think it was a okay movie. And like you said, the production behind it looked good. The movie looked good. Now, I don't know where it was filmed, but the movie took place in Portland, Oregon, which is why it was raining all the time, because it's just right next to Washington. In fact, I made a joke early on, where's this, Seattle? And then we found out it's in Portland, like, oh, hey, that's not too far off. So, this movie certainly looks nice, but it doesn't have, it's missing something, like, that makes it really stand out to me. And, I mean, I might pick it up for like $3 on DVD, but the thing is, I'll probably never watch it. Like, if you watch it once every 15 and a half years, you'll probably be okay. Now, that's not to say if you're like a big fan of Colin Hanks or some of these actors, maybe it makes more of a difference. But it just wasn't enough here to really elevate it to much more than an okay movie.
I can't think about Colin Hanks without thinking about how he was once in Tom Hanks's ball sack, but that's just how my mind works.
See, I don't even know how to reply to that, so I'll just let that comment sit.
I'm sure other people might have something to say about it. Well, I guess I know traditionally we have, or we originally did give scores to movies, like ratings, and then we kind of stopped doing it. But I guess, it's fine if you want to throw out a rating for this movie, just so people can kind of see exactly where it fits on your scale. So did you have a particular rating in mind for this one?
I can throw one out, but I need to preface this. I always do this because I'm an annoying bitch, I guess. My rating system can annoy a lot of people, and I just want to quickly explain it. I rank between 0 and 10, so it's a 0 out of 10 rating. And I also use an increment of 0.5, so I might give something like a 5.5 or 9.5. As long as it fits between 0 and 10, it's legit. And my average rating for a movie is a 7 out of 10. And you might think, hey, that's stupid. I get it, and I have reasons, but that's not the point. My average rating is a 7 out of 10. So with that information in mind, this movie, I'll probably just give a 7. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I had a okay time watching it, but I'm probably not going to watch it again. So I think, for me personally speaking, a straight average rating, it's like this movie was made for that. So that's what I would give this one.
Well, my rating system is a little more traditional, I guess, but for me, like a average okay movie is really around a 6 out of 10. And so for me, this is somewhere around that 6.5 to 7 out of 10 as well. Yeah, so it's enjoyable. I could throw this on again in another 5 years, have whatever fun with it for that hour or two, but it's nothing I'm going to ever, it's not going to come up in conversation when we're talking about movies we enjoy or anything like that. So there's just so many movies out there that this one just gets lost in the shuffle. Anywho.
Oh, damn it. I just realized one thing I wanted to talk about. And I think you mentioned this last time we talked about it. But it's by the same guy who literally directed Fracture. And he also directed both Primal Fear and Frequency. Now, Primal Fear I can take or leave. It's a 90s movie, which is okay. But Fracture and Frequency are both fantastic movies. So the fact that this guy goes on to direct 2 movies I give like a 9 or a 10 out of 10 to come down to Untraceable sort of does something. But
well, I don't remember if I've seen Frequency, but I did see Fracture in the theaters, and then I bought it on DVD and then on Blu-ray. That is a movie that I quite enjoy. It's a really solid thriller.
Well, you're also a big Ryan Gosling fan, so makes sense.
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, so I watched this movie before I even knew who he was. And that wasn't necessarily the movie that made me enjoy watching his films. It was more once we got to Drive, Place Beyond the Pines, Only God Forgives. That was a time where I really started to, latch on to the things that he was in, but no, like Fracture. Actually, you know what? Now that we bring up Fracture, the guy in Untraceable that you said didn't have much personality? Isn't he the detective in Fracture?
He was. And it's funny, I actually noticed that when I was talking about the guy, but I didn't want to go out of my way to bring that up. But yeah, he was. I remember his breakdown on his time once. It's like, oh, he said, fucking my wife. So that's a great scene. But yeah, he actually had personality in Fracture a little bit, so some good stuff.
Yeah, a little bit more. But I guess we can all agree that Fracture is a better movie than Untraceable.
Yeah, that is the easiest agreement I've ever had with you.
Anything else you wanted to say before we wrap this up?
Yeah, unfortunately, I've got nothing pithy, so I'll just say it's been nice.
Okay then. Well, that's it. Thanks for tuning in to those who made it all the way through to the end, and I guess we'll see you next time.